Do camera companies owe you anything? Let's discuss. Hello everyone, I hope you're all good. Now this can be quite a controversial subject, and if we poke the bear enough, can provoke some very hostile responses. So let's poke away, shall we? So you're looking for a new camera, you do plenty of research, you rent them, you borrow your friends, you watch endless YouTube videos, and you spend your hard-earned money on that camera, and you love it. Well, you kind of love it. You love it at the time anyway. However, that same camera manufacturer, a few months later, decide to release a newer model. Might not be a direct successor to the one that you just bought. It could be a model down, it could be a sidestep, it could be a different one in their range. Doesn't matter. But they release a new model, and you think, what the hell? But in that short space of time, their R&D department have been a little bit busy, and they've probably put some nice new little features in there that you wish your fancy camera had. But guess what? It doesn't. And these features could easily be added in terms of a firmware update. So you naturally get a little bit annoyed, perhaps. So what do? Do you just accept it, move on? That's the camera you bought, that is the camera you paid for. Or do you get a little bit frustrated and kick up a fuss in some Facebook forum groups? Well, I've read a lot of said forum groups, and it may be no surprise that people can get a little bit touchy in these, and it gets a little bit heated, especially when it comes to certain manufacturers, Sony, and their lack of ongoing firmware updates. What's even more surprising is it's not even a clear argument. I mean, there are 50-50 people on each end. You'd think that everybody would want something for free, but no, apparently not. And it can get very heated in these forum groups, which makes for some great reading material, which is why I wanted to make this video, for some more entertainment. I'm only joking. No, I actually wanted to find out what you guys thought. And then on the other end of the scale, you have some very smug individuals, Panasonic owners, who seem to be getting endless firmware updates all the time. Features thrown at them left, right and centre. Can't avoid them, which in my opinion is very great. It's fantastic. And now I'm a Panasonic user, which is even better for me. But on a level playing field, we're not talking as if I'm a Lumix user, you're a Sony user, Canon, whatever. We're just talking about camera manufacturers in general. Now, which side of the fence do you sit at? Are you on the side that wants free firmware updates and thinks that we should get them? Or are you on the side that thinks, no, you bought the camera, that is it. Shut up. Let's discuss. Now, I just want to start off by saying that I am firmly on the side of, yes, camera companies do owe you something. But before we go into reasons why, let's discuss why some say otherwise, that no, camera companies don't owe you anything. Trust me, this won't take long. So, no, camera companies don't owe you anything extra than what you paid for. After all, you bought the camera that was advertised, they haven't missold you anything, you should be happy with the specs that are included, so you can't complain really. And it would be complete and utter nonsense if camera companies were dishing out free firmware updates that could potentially harm their future releases, or their other current releases, or their higher models, lower models, whatever it is. It would be utter nonsense. It's not like if you went to a car manufacturer and you took your car back because the fuel economy on the newer model was better, so then they're gonna fit yours with better fuel efficiency. It's just not gonna happen, is it? So no, get over yourself. You've got a nice camera, that's what you paid for. End of. See, told you it wouldn't take me long. Now time for the juicy stuff. Why they should owe you something. In terms of firmware, like software, we're not talking about, obviously they're not going to take your camera back and then, you know, install it with a better sensor, stacked sensor or whatever for better low light performance and sharpness and all this sort of stuff. No, the model, the hardware is what you bought. We're talking about firmware, we're talking about software. Should they be releasing new features that are on their newer models to their older line of cameras? Firstly, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Sony, because we know we are directing that bullet right between the O and the N. It's definitely aimed at Sony, and their lack of, I don't know, like they just don't seem to offer very many firmware updates for their current customers who have spent a lot of money buying their cameras, a lot of money investing into their systems. I understand that Sony do offer some very, very competitive specs. They are brilliant cameras, I'm not denying that at all. However, it does get very, very frustrating when you buy a camera. Cameras like the A9 or the A1, they're like the flagship cameras. I mean, people who have bought those cameras have, in my opinion, spent way above the odds. But it is what it is. People will spend the money how they want. But imagine spending that amount of money and then in a few months' time, a camera a third of the price has better specs, or not necessarily better specs, but it has some advanced features that your camera doesn't. Is that fair? I don't believe it is. And they show no signs, no matter how many times people are asking for it, they show no sign of offering this in the future. I mean, they did it to the FX3, was it? I think they gave that some extra stuff, but then the A7S3 has kind of died a slow death. I mean, there's probably not going to be an A7S4, let's face it. So is this right? Personally, no, this is not right. For anything that can be added via a firmware and has no hardware limitations, should be added for free in my opinion. Or at a push, they should charge a fee for the firmware update. I mean, come on. They should offer this as an option. And here's why. So let's move away from the camera industry just for a second and move towards some more consumer electronics. Starting with a mobile phone. Well, that's a cell phone to you Americans. But yeah, how many firmware updates, software updates have you had for your iPhone, your Samsung, whatever phone it may be? How many updates have you had? Many is probably my guess. More than you can count. Yes, a lot of the time they are bug fixes, like they're just fixing things that have gone wrong. But sometimes they do actually put extra apps in there, extra features in there, they enhance stuff, they make things better. Apple, for example, when it comes to their iOS, I mean, they have like a big song and dance about it. They have a big display and a massive big production talking about the new features that they're going to offer in their new iPhones or whatever. We didn't ask for it, we don't pay for it, they just do it. And the most important thing about that is it's compatible with probably 4 or 5 generations below the latest model. So we're not asking for these camera manufacturers to take our cameras back and then install new hardware. We're simply asking for firmware and software that is compatible with the hardware that we have. So if it already has compatible hardware for the software, just give us the firmware, man. Just give us it. Makes sense. Now, I'll keep comparing it to Apple, but I just feel that Apple are very good when it comes to their firmware updates, when it comes to their software updates for all of their products. I mean, even Mac OS. We don't pay for a new version of Mac OS. Same with like Final Cut Pro. You buy it, that's it. It keeps getting updates. I mean, that might come to an end and they might start offering subscriptions, but that's beside the point. When it comes to their Mac OS, they keep updating it. They keep giving us new features, keeping it up to date, and it also trickles down to every single laptop, desktop, whichever model you may have bought. So we're all experiencing these new features together, and we're paying, I guess Apple are quite expensive, we're paying a bit of a premium, but so are these cameras. We're talking like the Sony A7S3, 4 grand, A9, 6 grand, A1, 7 grand, however much they may be. They're very, very expensive cameras. And when you've got cameras like the A7 IV, which is 2.5 grand, again, very expensive, not attainable to most, but still cheaper than 4 grand, 6 grand, 7 grand. And it's just simply not fair that that camera will offer better features than the camera in a higher price bracket, in my opinion anyway. So it would be completely ridiculous to expect you to upgrade the hardware so that your product can last any decent length of time. Not to mention how extremely wasteful it would be and bad for the environment. I mean, you know, why don't we get chargers in the boxes anymore? Because they're all saving the environment. I mean, come on, offer us some free firmware updates. This will save the environment, or it will help. Now, I get that companies want to make money, right? That is their end goal. But also, it doesn't mean that we have to agree with it. We don't have to agree with their ethics. We invest so much money into one system. Well, maybe if you're not me, check out my last video, into lenses, into second bodies, into accessories, whatever it may be. We invest so much money into that one company that it should be in their best interests to keep us sweet, surely. Like, they want us to return as a customer, or they want us to recommend them to a friend or to colleagues or whatever it may be to spread the word. And well, it's just good business practice. I mean, it's just ethically the right thing to do. And we value a business that has a conscience, one that, you know, is non-profit or offers a percentage of its profits to a charity, or is using vegan materials or organic materials, whatever it may be. So if you don't agree with a company's business ethic or the way that they do things, then just don't buy into it. It's as simple as that. So the more people that don't buy into it, the more that hopefully they'll notice. I mean, come on, they're not going to notice if I stop buying, but they might notice if a few hundred or if a few thousand people stop buying into their products because they don't believe in how they run the business. Anyway, we value that, and if we believe in a company, then we're going to continue to buy into that system. We're going to continue to use that company for whatever products they supply. So clearly, it's got to be in their best interests to keep us happy, and firmware updates will do that, man. Give us it. Wow, that got deep pretty quick. Let's move on. So where was I? Yes, firmware. Firmware updates, in my opinion, should be available free of charge on a regular basis by all camera manufacturers, not just Lumix and Fuji, who I believe are pretty damn good at it. But no, Sony, Canon, come on, step up. Nikon, no idea who you are. But yeah, everyone else, seriously, you need to start offering these free of charge. In my opinion, Sony is starting to piss people off. I mean, they've done it to me, they upset me, I got sick of them, so I've left. and I've taken my business elsewhere. And yes, before you even start, my friend, I can see what you're about to do. You're about to type in the comments, aren't you? You're about to say, Sam, Sony do not care if you take your business elsewhere. That rhymes. Yeah, so maybe you're right. Sony probably will not care. They will not even notice if I take my business elsewhere. However, if more and more people take their business elsewhere because they start thinking in the same manner, or other companies set the bar too high and start including things like firmware updates free of charge, people are going to move on, and Sony are going to have to step up. Yeah, you heard me, Sony. I know you're listening. And to be fair, the way things are going anyway, I think that more camera manufacturers are going to have to do this by default anyway. I think it's going to have to become a thing, because evolution in the camera industry has become a bit stagnant. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're fantastic cameras, but there's nothing new and exciting anymore. I mean, yeah, 4K 120, whoa, yeah, 8K, who wants 8K? Nobody wants 8K, but they keep giving it to us. So I think they're going to have to develop a new operating system that can allow for third-party apps to be installed in T-Camera. That then will open up a world of new features and a new excitement for a mirrorless camera, because let's face it, mobile phones are definitely taking over, and they're definitely going to be, I don't know, they might end up being better. Then what's going to be the need for one of these? And this will probably come pretty soon, because they're going to have to compete with the mobile phone market soon, because their technology is starting to surpass, and at some point it will overtake. And in some respects it already has, like with things like AI depth of field, like you can actually fake shallow depth of field now. Yeah, it doesn't look that great at the moment, but it will actually start to look pretty damn good. And then you've got LiDAR, which I believe is a better way to measure depth and probably allow for better focusing. Augmented reality, I mean, that stuff just freaks me out. It's just getting better and better, and camera manufacturers are going to have to change the game. I mean, message interrupting me, what's going on there? I mean, you can do so much now with a camera that's in your pocket, it's mad. Why would you need a mirrorless camera? And as technology advances and the gap gets smaller and smaller, you're gonna have to do something to entice us, something to keep us in the game. And you know, firmware updates will do that for the short term. They're gonna have to do something a bit more drastic in the long term. So get this, rather than seeing them as two separate industries and two separate devices, what if they could be used together? What if you could operate your camera like you could a pair of AirPods? I mean, think about it. What makes AirPods so great? It's the ability to take them out of the case and they switch on and pair to your phone instantly. You don't have to dive into menus and struggle to set them up like you do a camera. I mean, have you ever tried to use the apps on these cameras on your mobile phone? It's awful. It just doesn't work. I've never been able to pair them successfully. And even when I do, it's slow, it's sluggish, it's not intuitive. Do not enjoy the experience. But things like AirPods and all these other devices that are now pairing with mobile phones in a more intuitive, more fluid manner, they just work. And I think that that should be the sort of step that the industry should go. Rather than trying to be something separate, I think they should be more combined. And that might even mean that Apple come up with their own mirrorless camera. I don't know. So for example, if they ran off a different operating system, like a lighter version of Android or a lighter version of iOS or something like that, where it's the same language but a much more condensed way of doing it, so that then they could communicate a lot easier. So imagine if you could just take photos and then they instantly, without even you doing anything, you just turn your camera on, your phone knows that it's switched on, you take pictures, they're instantly uploaded to your phone, which also expands your hard drive, but then they get uploaded to Lightroom. You can then be in a cafe, whatever it is, on a break from your day of shooting, they're already there uploading in Lightroom. You can edit a few on the fly, you can share them with clients, you can put them on social media. I mean, it would absolutely change the game, and I think that that is the way that they need to go. They need to stop having their own sort of independent operating system with their own firmware. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good stuff, but it needs to move forward now. Like, we've hit a stagnant point in these cameras where, you know, what's next? 12K? I don't even use 4K. I mean, this is filmed in 1080p still. Who needs 8K? So yeah, we just need to get a grip, and Sony need to stop being so tight, especially with their firmware updates. So for the time being, right, give us some damn firmware updates for free. I don't want to pay, just give me them for free. And then I think Sony might be the first to do this, ironically. Then look at a different way to communicate with mobile phones, so we've got this fluid interaction, this game-changing experience. Yeah, that's it. Those are my thoughts, and that is why I think that camera companies do owe you something. They should owe you something. For the amount of money that you're spending on their gear, the least they could do is keep you in the game. They should keep you on their side. And at the moment, all they can really do is offer you firmware updates. They can't do anything else, and I don't expect anybody to give me free camera gear, because that's just, you know, who's going to do that? But firmware updates, I mean, come on, just sort out the focus breathing, or put animal detect in there. Whatever it may be that you may have trickled down to these newer versions, trickle up, if that makes sense. Yeah, stop trickling down, trickle up. Trickle wickle up. So yeah, that's pretty much it, right? Let me know in the comments. Are you on my side? Are you on the side that thinks that there should be free firmware updates? Or do you still firmly believe that that's it? You bought the camera, stick with it, stop complaining. I like to hear both sides. I don't mind. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit different to what I normally do. Just basically just gone on a rant. But I kind of want to have a bit of a chat, see what you guys think. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Really helps out the channel. Consider subscribing if you want to see more, because I will definitely be making more videos, and hit the bell to be notified for when I do. All that will put a nice smile on my face. Honestly, makes my day. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out. What's that? Sony expected to release new firmware with focus breathing and animal eye detect in their Sony A7S III models. Changing the game. They ain't doing that. You're kidding me? They don't care. They don't care about you. They care about themselves. They don't give a damn about you. Nope. That is why I moved to Panasonic.